Taking care of prom.
Not doing anything for prom. I don't have no prom goers.
And this year, that's not.
I think it's almost a little bit more.
Okay, it is 6 PM, so we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I do need your attention to the addendum. We do have an addendum tonight to the agenda, so I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda along with the addendum.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda with the addendum. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 3-0, approval of minutes from the March 15th regular meeting. Any questions or concerns about the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those minutes there as printed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 4-0, consideration of bills and warrants. You should have those.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve those bills and warrants. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Hearing of requests and suggestions of citizens and organizations. Is there anyone that is not already on the agenda that wishes to address the board? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, we'll move on to 6.0 Special Report A is Mr. Burke, high school choir teacher.
Hello. I'm back. I have some interesting data that I've collected. It's made of wood. There you go. I have some interesting data that I've collected and I wanted to share with you. This kind of stems from last year. I was here pre-COVID. The world is, everything's pre-COVID or post-COVID, you know. And we talked about things, and Lou asked a question about, do you need any additional people or anything? What can we do to help you guys? And so it kind of sparked interest in how our elementary music is run. And I've got some data. I took a survey, and I just wanted to talk about those results. And it's pretty surprising. So I sent out a survey asking for total number of minutes that kids have general music at the elementary level. I sent that out to Southeast District of Kansas for the Kansas Music Educators Association. I got 29 responses. All 29 responses teach some level of K through 5. And the results from that are as follows. The bold areas are where we stand, okay? So total minutes for kindergarten. The large blue portion is I do not teach this grade, which upon reflection, I wish I didn't put on the survey. So I did the math here for the people who do, which is 22 people. This is where we are. One school, because of COVID, is 15 to 30 minutes a week. We have some at the kindergarten level that have between 30 and 40, which is really 40, and some that are 45 and 60. There is not a rotation on that scale. So we have some kindergarten classes that have 60 minutes of music, and we have some that have 30 minutes of music, just period. And you can see still a majority, 15 of the 22 are at 60 to 90 or 90 and above. First grade, similar. 2 schools, one because of COVID, so one school's in the 30 to 40, which is some of our kids, and the other is 45 to 60. And again, that doesn't change on a quarterly basis or anything like that. Here's where it gets a little more interesting. Second grade, and that's when we'd be moving, to Garfield. There are 3 of the 23 who responded. There are 3 that see 30 to 40 minutes, and 2 of the 3 are because of COVID. The third one is us, and that's how it's been for a while. Third grade, 2 because of COVID, and us. The other 22 are 60 to 90 to 120. A lot of people in the comments that I let a comment section say they teach 120. Some people have music every day. That's generally a smaller school that has them. Fourth grade, we are the only ones that have, and these are all 40 minutes that we have kids, 40 minutes once a week. Everybody else has more, same with fifth grade. So like why did this occur? So we look way back at when Charlotte Ecoff was here. She retired or stepped away from teaching, and we made that fill with Carol Hoyt. And whenever I came along, Carol started doing some Spanish at the middle school. And so it's been a band choir orchestra person, 6 through 12, that's been taking on Guthridge, and Carol covers the rest. That's how we're doing it right now with those low numbers, okay? Some other thoughts, Altamont, Oswego, Erie are all above or at or above 90 minutes. Meadowview, for instance, has music every day. Their fifth grade kids are required to be, fifth grade general music is actually band. So that's one way they obviously recruit for the band. The band position right now, they spend a third of their time teaching general music, and that's not typically what your high school band director is interested in doing. I think it has to do with some of the turnover in the band positions that we've had here. And I know that, and I've talked to Eric about this is one of the reasons why he's leaving this year. You're stretching one person between three schools. That's a third of the job is elementary right now, and that's not, it's a lot. And it's, to end your day at the high school, and that's supposed to be where you're putting a lot of your thought process, especially this time of year, you have pullouts for sports, and you show up and do that. It just doesn't quite, it's like hiring your head football coach, and then they do a third of football season at the tennis courts, right? For our kids, obviously, if they have more general music, we should have growth in every one of our music programs, especially instrumental. More specials, time for music would allow plan scheduling options for elementary teachers and admins. When Carol Hoyt retires, and if the person that replaces her, and Carol has a couple of years, it's what she's told me. The new hire doesn't have the credentials to teach Spanish like Carol does. There are now more sections of elementary for the new hire to teach all elementary music like Carol did before. So the thought process whenever we started doing it for band choir orchestra was that we would do this for a little bit. And at that time, Carol was at Guthridge on Fridays only and would see everybody there at Guthridge. Now there are more sections of classes. There's not enough time in the day to do that. Plus, think about spring and Fridays off and all of that. It's just bananas. And again, we're talking 40 minutes. Research shows that learning music correlates with higher test scores, better graduation rates, all the things that we see and share on Facebook and all that. Music classes, even at the general elementary level, reinforce the increasingly important soft skills that would create a well-rounded functioning member of society. So my proposition after finding out this information, and again, I knew that I have friends who teach in Wichita and Salina and Kansas City that are one of two teachers in a building or something like that. I was surprised that we were near the bottom or at the bottom in this part of the state, which is probably one of the lowest areas in the state. So my proposal is to look into hiring another elementary music person, which is, I know it's a lot. I know there's a lot of money and there's a lot to be spending money on right now, but I just worry about what the options are going to be after Carol does retire, and the tenure of a new band person coming in, and all of those things. Hire one that works K1-2 and hire a position that works 3-4-5, so they'd split Garfield, giving all students at least 80 minutes a week. Lincoln could go 3 times for 30 minutes. That's generally what they ask for those, or what is standard for those grades. And the Garfield and Guthridge could handle 40 to 45 minutes twice a week. The This would allow scheduling freedom for elementary schools, more successful music for the district, the ability to keep the orchestra teacher teaching orchestra, the choir teacher teaching choir, the secondary band director teaching instrumental music, and gives children an adequate amount of elementary music if we're comparing it to the other areas of the state, the other areas of our district that we serve in as KMEA. So it'd be available to help cover lunch, recess. It would assist in forming a fifth grade band if they needed, if they had some time in their schedule or whatever, they could assist in fifth grade band or elementary choir. Elementary choir is included in KMEA events. It's just not something that we do because we don't have somebody who's at that level, would help Carol organize elementary concerts. A lot of schools do small productions whenever they have music, have general music that much in the school year. And somebody would focus all their attention on elementary music. An idea of scheduling. 3, 4, 5, we kind of already talked about that. I have a schedule proposed for what the new band hire would be doing and what their schedule would look like. And then mine and Lauren's. There's no change in Lauren's schedule. I would add an advanced music studies class at the high school. So the new band hire could spend half their day at the middle school and half their day at the high school doing guitar, piano, and then high school band. Again, something that we are, all of us K through 12 in music are certified to teach anything music. But this would be a way to get that band director at the high school for half of their day and expand the guitar program. And we're beginning class piano next year after our grant that we got from the Parsons Education Foundation. Advanced studies in music is an opportunity for kids who are juniors and seniors to focus on further developing musical skills, have the opportunity to develop their own course or study, learning music theory, creating music, getting ready for college. I have a few people in my Viking concert choir who are doing that right now, just because enrollment's been weird this year with COVID stuff, and it's working well for them. So I think it would be something that would benefit. This would be something that would benefit the music program as a whole, but especially. I just worry about this band position, and I don't want this to be a revolving door, but it's been a couple times now where it's been a few years and in and out. And then also, of course, more music education at the elementary level is not a bad thing. I would be interested to see what test scores and all that kind of stuff looks like if we have more focus on soft skills and things like that. And this is one of the ways to do that. Okay, I'm done talking.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I've, been around forever and seen these programs. If you have a really good music teacher, yes. But many times, music in the elementary school is for the sake of the teacher a planning period.
Sure.
And that's the way teachers see it, I do believe, I know, and students quite often have somewhat behavior problems sometimes if the teacher's not really into it. I mean, because at one time we used to have music.
Yeah,
twice
and
a
we
week.
had a teacher in every building.
Yes,
Yeah.
And I think you're right, Roger. The key is getting the right person in the right spot.
yes.
And what we found is that it's hard to find someone who is really good at band and instrumental stuff, and then also wants to teach
Yeah.
elementary music and kind of finding
Well,
that.
my key is what I'm talking about, elementary. I
teacher.
mean, you gotta find somebody, otherwise the kids go in there and,
Sure.
Let's face it, we know what goes on.
Yep. We have, it's been a while since we've hired an elementary music person, but there is a large pool. I mean, I look at K-State, of course, because it's where I graduated, and there are probably more graduating in elementary right now than in secondary. Yeah, I mean.
I hope we can go out a way to recruit.
Absolutely, yeah. Literally every school around us has more And so there's something to that, you know? And absolutely, cover plans and cover all that kind of stuff. I totally get that. And this would help.
Beneficial, not just a person to fill a slot.
Right.
You're right.
And let's be honest, you have a person in the building for an hour or 2 hours at a time, and you also then want them to go and teach the top level band, the top level choir, whatever. That's not where their focus is going to be.
I agree. It wears a person out.
Well, it's just, there's stuff you got to do, and then there's stuff that you can go, okay, I can do this, and not focus on it, you know? And I think that's what we often run into. That's what I ran into whenever I did it. And that, you know, it's a lot. So, yeah.
I think getting a good quality person is really important too. I also think that sometimes when you have, let's say, even a mediocre teacher, that sometimes it just lights a fire in someone where they, all of a sudden, they really do know that they do love music. And
Absolutely.
it's kind of worth it for that. But music does develop the whole learning mind. And like you say, the soft skills are really, really important that they learn with that. And if you say, did you say that more are graduating with elementary music than?
From what I've seen the last couple of years, yes.
Well, like Roger said, I think, you know, quality is important, but I just think it helps teach the whole brain much better
Right.
if we could have more music.
Right. And again, just back to that data, it's pretty surprising that we teach half as much as somebody 15 miles away or 8 miles away or 30 miles away or an hour and a half away.
Well, and it just feeds
it's
into the
about-
whole curriculum too.
Right.
Music does, if you think about it with math.
Absolutely, yes.
And
Yeah.
what you sing, and, you know, different songs about history or even math or
Sure.
song, any type of literature.
The opportunity for collaboration with their normal classroom teacher and everything is higher when they're there more often. I mean, obviously, you know, it's just a matter of acting on it and getting it in place. If you want good numbers in a band program, if you want growing numbers in orchestra choir, to answer your question from over a year ago, like, this is how you do it.
Well, I want to make a comment and echo with what Joanne said. When I came here in 1980, I went to a high school of 4,000 in a suburb of Chicago. When I was at Parsons High School, I thought I was at New Trier High School in Evanston, Illinois. The band program, the vocal music program, the drama program, the debate program were tops. I haven't seen anything like that in a long, long time. And over the years, what has happened is the programs, because of budget cuts and other unforeseen circumstances, the program has gone down. We have 2 people in the program now that can build it up, just like you just got through saying. You can build us up and have a quality program. I just made a post on Facebook with Tommy Shaw from Styx, who performed the Fooling Yourself with that high school band and orchestra. I mean, it got hit after hit after hit. That's the kind of program that you want. And like Joanne said, you cover a lot of different subjects through music. And when I had the gifted program, almost every single student in the gifted program had vocal or instrumental music as well as debate, because it teaches self-discipline. For me, now is the time to spark that program and get it back to where it was and even better.
Sure. I agree.
Well, we have it on the agenda here, so,
Yeah.
you know, obviously.
Yeah.
And we know you have something.
I gotta be, you know, there's a little thing called a musical that I
A musical,
get ready for.
And so the
But,
musical is.
But I've got time, so if you have any questions, because I won't be here later, so.
But the musical is Thursday.
Yeah, I was
Friday.
gonna make a slide and then I just didn't have
I
it.
know.
I was like, oh, and by the way,
But it's Friday night.
Mamma Mia is Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this week. Friday and Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Sunday at 2 o'clock. $5 for adults, $4 for children. Masks and social distancing will be in place. The CTE department here has combined with us and Bruce Ray kind of heading it up, and we've got CAD and drafting and welding and woodshop. I mean, everybody in CTE is making this, and we've got a 20-foot set, and we have a hydraulic dock and all kinds of, so this is one that you want to see. And by the way, this is the 25th year that we've been at the municipal building. So this is a big show. COVID is not going to take the show away from us. So I'm looking in the camera because this is for the public. Come and see this show. You want to see this show, okay?
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Do our students have an opportunity for scholarships or some kind of grants to purchase musical instruments? Or are they rented, or how does that work financially so that all kids have an opportunity?
There's a rental agreement that's in place.
We have a cheap rental agreement.
Very inexpensive.
It's less than $50 a year. I think it's $40 a year in place. And if a kid can't pay that, it's okay. In general, the admin do a good job of taking care of the needs that we need. Yeah. So.
Anything further from Mr. Burke?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Sharing
Thank you
all
for-
your information.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your report.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to special report B, the instructional coach update. So we've got a plethora of instructional coaches that are going to come visit with us.
We've got our cadre of ladies.
Hello. Okay, I'm Whitney Spencer, and I am the instructional coach at Lincoln. And then Michelle Pivas over at Guthridge, and Robin Jarrett is at Garfield. And we're kind of just going to give you an update of what's going on in our world and what we do. So I'm just going to tell you about the data that we use. The Peli is what we use for pre-kindergarten, and this is the first year that we've used it. It's based in a story format, and we assess this at the beginning, middle, and end of the year, so 3 times. And we assess for letter identification, vocabulary, comprehension, and phonemic awareness. We also do DIBELS. This is kindergarten through 5th grade. And this is also the beginning, middle, and end of year, and we assess letter names, first sounds, phonemic segmentation, nonsense words, and oral reading. And depending on what grade is what skills that is being tested during that time. Alpha Kids is an assessment in kindergarten and 1st grade. And we do this 3 times a year as well, beginning, middle, and end. And we're looking for the students' instructional reading level for the end of the year. And the map is given in 2nd to 5th grade. And this is measuring achievement and growth in math, reading, and language usage, and science. This provides teachers with accurate and actionable evidence to help target instruction. And this is given as well 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. 2nd grade does reading and math. 3rd grade does reading, math, and language usage. And 4th grade does math, reading, language usage. And 5th grade does math, reading, language usage, and science. And then if we see that there's any additional testing that we need to give, we have some screeners we do. One is the PASS, and that's just a phonological awareness test. The RGR is really great reading. And this is a test to look at decoding and seeing where difficulties the kids are having. And then there's also the PSI, which is a phonics screener for interventions. And this is to identify any missing skills for phonics. And so now that we have all this data, what do we do with it? A lot of data.
Hi everyone, I'm Robin Jarrett and I'm at Garfield School most of the time. Once we have the data, we compile it, and from all the programs that Whitney just mentioned, we analyze it by looking for significant increases or decreases to determine necessary instructional changes. We then group our students according to the skills they need to become proficient readers, and we call this our instructional grouping. After we know what our students need, We determine instructional materials and resources and schedule times for our students to meet with our reading interventionists. These times are determined by us and our teachers at the beginning of the year. We then progress monitor in DIBELS in particular, which stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. We monitor our students' progress every 3 to 4 weeks. This year, we've scheduled progress monitoring 8 times, with our final one coming up April 27th. And we've benchmark tested at the beginning and the middle of the year, with our final benchmark test coming up May 17th. We typically map test at Garfield and Guthridge at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. And again, we use this data from this assessment and others to determine necessary instructional changes and/or improvements. We'll regroup students based on their needs, and it's a continual process for us. Some parts of the picture look different depending on the source of the data, the resources we use, and the time of the year, but basically, we're always looking for and finding ways to be responsive to our students' needs. And next up is Michelle.
I'm Michelle Piva, and I get to talk about all the other lovely jobs that we do as instructional coaches and Title I teachers in all 3 elementary buildings. So each of us is a part of our student improvement teams, and we also provide data on individual students to these teams. We give suggestions for modifications that can be made to the curriculum to assist struggling students. Our role is to provide input in helping to identify students that may need further evaluation. So Whitney referred to those different screeners. We might also need to do some special evaluations if they're qualify for any resource services. We work with classroom teachers, the counselor, and mental health professionals during these student improvement team meetings for any kind of interventions that students might also need for behavior plans of any kind. So each week, we attend a student improvement team meeting, and then we follow up with the work that we need to do for those individual students that need help. And then next on my list is the building leadership team. We meet several times throughout the year, and we do just kind of manage different aspects of each of our buildings. So Whitney's job might look a little different than Robin's job or my job. So I've just kind of tried to summarize some things that we do. I think Lincoln meets on a monthly basis, whereas Garfield and Guthridge meet bi-weekly. Our role in these meetings is to collaborate with other staff members, and we coordinate activities that are going on within each of our buildings. It's like some of our spring activities at Guthridge, we're doing a field day. I know you guys are probably doing some field days, so we get in on some of that fun stuff like that. We also assess the culture and climate of our buildings, and then we try to respond to any of the suggestions or needs that are brought up in these building leadership team meetings. We've spent a lot of time this year, of course, navigating our COVID protocol, like sanitizing and distancing procedures. And so that's taken up a lot of time. I'd say this is probably one of the most difficult years I've spent as a teacher in my career. We were also challenged this year with helping our teachers swim through those deep waters of simultaneously teaching students in their classrooms while also teaching remotely. And so the 3 of us were, kind of an instrumental part of making sure that that was going smoothly, keeping, on track of teachers and helping them out with that. Now, on to my 3rd bullet. One of our most important responsibilities is that we have a program this year called Kansas Star. And it's a program last year that we were trained on. And it was directive from the state that all Title I schools begin using this Kansas Star program. And so as a website, we track our goals within this website. We develop action items to meet the goals. And then we deliver those action items out to the correct people. So Whitney and Robin and I were all trained last spring, if I didn't already say that. And then with the help of our building leadership teams, our administration, we began working really closely to, I also have to put a plug in for Tony Habiger here, our wonderful, wonderful mentor that the three of us have had for 2 years. We couldn't have done this job without her, but with her help, admin help, building leadership team help, we determine what goals we want our students to achieve. And many of our professional learning days then surround these goals that we've set for students. And some of the goals that we're working on are academic related. Many of them are academic related, but we also, as each building, have social emotional goals for our students as well. And then of course we have all kinds of data. We're becoming the data queens. And then a big part of our day is being the building testing coordinators. Whitney already talked about all of that, the summative assessment, coordinating screenings for each of these students. Part of that testing coordination means that we're also overseeing our people resources, so all of our interventionists. I know in Guthridge we have 4 interventionists. 4.5 and 3. And so, we have to oversee their comings and goings and what they're teaching and when they're going to test. We started state assessments a couple of weeks ago, and so we're just in the midst of heavy-duty state assessment accommodating right now. The grade level collaboration. As instructional coaches, we're working with our grade level teams to ensure that teachers have curriculum maps at the beginning of the year for all their different subjects, and then that they're moving through those curriculum maps at kind of a steady pace. Our Wonders ELA curriculum, our reading and grammar curriculum that we're currently using has a built-in calendar. So we sort of assist teachers in setting that up at the beginning of the year. Throughout the year, we're monitoring, are you using that program the way it's designed? I know at Garfield and Guthridge, probably Lincoln too, that we do progress monitoring assessments that are set up very much like our state assessment questions. And so it's important that, teachers are delivering those throughout the school year. And then the last thing we have on here is curriculum development. And we've taken this on as a big part of our job. We're trying to build sustainable science and social studies units that are accessible not just to our veteran teachers, but for also our new or our less experienced teachers. Because your veteran teachers, they're very knowledgeable. They can pick up any resource and they can come up with lessons and assessments based on just their background knowledge. But our new and less experienced teachers need more of that help on a day-to-day basis. So this has kind of been an ongoing process. I don't know if you want to say anything about, like Robin and Tony have worked really hard at Garfield to develop a social studies curriculum there. I know our focus has been on science and incorporating a lot of new resources and materials. And we're just trying to keep abreast of all of those new and innovative teaching practices, and just go in as much as we can to help teachers with that. So, any questions for the three of us elementary? We're busy people every day. So, all right. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Susan Dringenberg, and I'm the instructional coach at the middle school. And so I thought I would start by sharing how this position was created. I'm the second one to have this position. About 12 years ago, we had an outside team come in. It was part of accreditation. They took a look at what was working well at the elementary, which included instructional coaching. They made a recommendation that we extend that to secondary. A lot of that had to do with data and what it looked like. And so we also had a principal at that time that was convicted to the concept, and that's how the position came to be. The role has flexed based on leadership. So I'll go into that a little bit more, but certainly I consider what the administration's vision is when I try to do what I do. I feel like there's a gold star there because I just think my main role is to support teachers. Some of you are married to teachers or have relatives that are teachers or have been teachers. And I think to be an effective instructor is very demanding and gets more so all the time. So with that said, the support I give them hopefully impacts student learning. And it's a partnership. I don't have any evaluative role. It's just a meeting of the minds. We brainstorm. And something that's important to me is try to remain close by listening to the joys and challenges that those folks are facing. Because it's easy to make recommendations or suggestions, but it's the people who put it into place that make the difference for the kids. Next, these are the 3 areas that I feel kind of divide my responsibility, and I try to stay informed in, and then I'll take each of those and just give a little more information. First, curriculum and instruction. Second, data, including over time. And finally, professional development. In our professional development, we try to consider the needs of the staff, what the vision of our building administrators are. You guys have expectations, as does the district office and the state. So just trying to have the information from those different places. I know the strategic plan is getting close to completion, I think, and all those good things. So first, curriculum and instruction. Much like what was shared before, we kind of have a summarized or a condensed version of all their standards. And then we revisit that periodically in the year to make sure the curriculum's being taught, paired with a pacing calendar, just to make sure it happens. People are diligent. It's just that sometimes it helps to have a check-in for those kinds of things. Next, department meetings. That's been my role to lead those for the 4 core subject areas. I do classroom observations. Sometimes teachers invite me in. They just want me to take a look because they've got a great project going on, or maybe they want me to kind of do a little data tally to observe certain things, and sometimes I just pop in on my own and give them feedback. Again, never evaluative. Just throw in there, a lot of teachers have the answers to their own questions, in my opinion, but their job has a lot of weight. And so just some of that dialogue, maybe they'll come in to talk and they know more than I do a lot of times. And then finally, building leadership team. That's been part of my responsibility to attend that as well. So next, data. First, for MAP, middle school's done it fall and spring. Several times during the course of my tenure, we've looked at how many instructional days are you using and how many assessment days. And it's always kind of a juggling act. So I'll jump kind of to number 4. I know you guys are familiar with the struggling reader dyslexia legislation. So that's mandated next year that we'll add a winter test as well. What we do with the data is we do have support classes for math and reading. And so the kids go to their regular ed class, but then they have additional time to try to catch up or work on skills. And we have multiple criteria to place them. And then for math, we have advanced classes. So we use that data for that kind of placement. We visit the data. I try to meet individually with an instructor to talk about several aspects of it. We look at as a math department or reading department. And then I try to summarize it, and we look at it as a building because everybody's invested in it. The only core subject that MAP doesn't test for us is social studies, and they've got their own pre and post comprehensive tests because all those things we're using summatively to see, are the kids learning in this program? And then when I say trends, just meaning like, so we look at maybe these same students the previous 2 or 3 years, because MAP provides that data, how are they doing? And then we also look at the grade level. So how is 6th grade done consistently in whatever subject area? Student goal setting, we know that's important. It's easy to do with MAP. We don't do it extensively, but they do get their sheets for fall and know what their growth is supposed to be. So the thumbs up on the top one, kind of 2 measurements that we're looking for is in MAP, they tell you the expected amount of growth students should make from fall to spring if you look at the mean. So if we get pretty close to that growth, we're thinking we did pretty well. And overall, consistently, we're close, sometimes a little above, sometimes a little below. but that's kind of our marker, and the staff knows that. The second piece of data we use is state assessments. And again, we know our at-risk students have great capabilities, and we also know sometimes they need support. So we look at our state mean, and then we compare it to our building mean. And again, if we're pretty close to that, with 30% more at-risk students than the state average, we're feeling like we're doing a pretty good job. So that's kind of the marker that we look at. So those two top ones are what we track over time and look for trends. The third thing, the state offers some interim tests. We do those with the kids. It's nice just for math and reading because the results are diagnostic. So that you can kind of pinpoint what skills they need. In addition to adding a winter assessment for all students, new next year with that legislation we'll be required to progress monitor, which is new for secondary. So that will lead me into professional development. For me, I just would like to thank the administration and the board for support of attending gym night conferences. Sometimes they're kind of pricey, but it has helped me immensely. I'm a big advocate for professional development. I try to encourage anybody to go to anything that might help them because personally it's made a big impact for me. Since we've gone with COVID virtually, Greenbush has a curriculum leaders meeting weekly, and it's invaluable. They bring the information from the state meetings. I can get it and give it to my people. And the other thing is I can ask questions and hear what other schools are doing. So that's huge. For our staff, for example, last year before COVID, our social studies assessment is changing. So the Department of Social Studies teachers and I went over there 3 times to learn. You know, there's new rubrics, there's new requirements. It's a whole writing thing. It's just a lot of change. So that we kind of try to work that in. And then this year, for the first year, we've had professional learning communities. And so that's been part of my role to do some professional development during that time. So what that looks like is, last year we had 30 minutes a week where grade level teams could meet to take care of sit, anything that, planning activities, whatever. But this year the schedule was designed so that there were 50 minutes a day, every day, where grade level teams met. So my role in that, and unfortunately it was only core teachers. I'm glad Aaron's gone. Don't want to get an argument, but we'd love to have everybody. It's just really hard to get coverage and figure out how to do it. So anyway, we started off, we try to align needs with actions. So that top resource, distance learning playbook, everybody, we had remote strategies that are also good in the regular classroom. Every teacher picked one. They took it back to their classroom. They practiced it. They collected student data. They came back and we talked about it. All I can say is that's the beauty of having a regularly scheduled time during your day. Because otherwise, I present, I leave, they're busy people. But this allowed for more follow through. So then, Rajan and Tyler, principal and vice principal, did some walkthroughs, came back and said, hey, we're noticing that maybe we could do some work with understanding objectives and depth of knowledge. So Rajan shared the common formative assessment book in the lower right-hand corner, and we came up with a series of lessons. Everybody had their own standards. They unwrapped them. We really hit on depth of knowledge. So just in a nutshell, if that isn't something that's familiar, how much thinking is expected of the student? Can they find the answer right there? Do they have to look a little bit for it? Are they going to have to do some research and those kinds of things? And another thing that was helpful about this was it wasn't just me or somebody else. We came up with a checklist of what should an objective look like, not just so that when you walk in it looks good, but so there's an alignment and an understanding of what the standard is, how deep they should think, and that kind of thing. So then we looked at quick progress checks. And just today we started on, everybody brings in a formative assessment and we're gonna look at it. And we're gonna go back to the standard, back to the depth of knowledge, and just make sure everything is in alignment. So also, I don't wanna just present this like we're perfect because we're not. This is the first year that we've done it. there's always a work in progress like anything else, but I've seen a lot of good things come of it. We were also able to do our test security training during this time. So a couple other things during that time that I participate in. We have sit meetings, and the administration met with the elective teachers and said, what can we do? Because we can't get you there. And so we have several dedicated people from each team that faithfully communicate the notes. So those folks, this is a number one priority, that they know what's going on with the students. And I never know what you guys already know, but the integration of communities and schools, Susan Hill's just doing an outstanding job. I can see so many things that she's implemented. The mental health liaison, Robin, they're there every week. And that way, when something comes up about students, you've got your people there who are, can make a difference and can suggest things or have funds to support things or whatever that looks like. And to date, there's 93 referrals, and the majority of those have some kind of plan in place or some kind of change to support them. So anyway, administrative updates were once a week, where grade level teams met with the administrators, and I attend just to try to be informed. Some other things that happened during that time was just common meeting times. They're able to contact parents. They contacted remote learners that needed follow-up. They worked on remote curriculum. And then recently what they've done during those times, if there's students that aren't passing, they come to their core teachers during that time for remediation, be it that they just need more time or they need to be retaught. And we have seen the number of failing grades go down since we started that. Okay, one more slide and you're done with me. I had this quote on my board, and so I just picked it to use. And it says, I believe we can do anything we're asked to do given time and resources. I think we have a great staff. I think we have a great school district. I also think that social and emotional stress is increasing for teachers, for students, for you, for everybody. There's a lot of talk about it, but sometimes I think, what do we really do that makes a difference? The other thing is there is so much change coming from the state. You guys know the Navigating Next document came out after Navigating Change, just trying to stay on top of that. And the third thing I thought it was interesting, the last group mentioned too, the biggest stressor that I get feedback on, and it's better now, but managing face-to-face remote learners and feeling effective as an instructor, that's really tough. So on my thinking, they appreciate any verbal reinforcement, ice cream, all of it. But I would also like to suggest support and coordination in the form of a coach and in the form of time to take care of these things is really what makes a difference, I think, in the work environment. And finally, teacher efficacy. Just the thought that collectively we believe as a building that we can influence student learning. It's number one out of 138 things in influencing the outcomes of kids' learning. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. But I would like to suggest some of these things that I've shared, I certainly hope have done that. And I would also say that from when our data was down, and you guys probably know this, or I'm glad to provide more specific if you'd like it, but generally speaking, we're meeting those 2 thumbs up goals. Generally, we're close to our growth in math, and generally, we're close to the state mean. And I feel good about that. So that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Great job. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Everybody take a big, deep breath. I'm the caboose to the train. And not everybody, I'm thinking, does our younger generation even know what a caboose is anymore? The little flashing, beeping light. Well, I'm Jane Good, and I'm at Parsons High School, and I'm the district testing coordinator and the building testing coordinator, instructional coach. And just briefly, the district testing coordinator, most of the work is behind the scenes. My goal has always been that when a teacher has decided to test and a student sits down to test, that everything is in place and ready to go. And that just doesn't happen magically. There are a lot of steps. And where we have a transient population, it even makes it harder. I've often said multiple times to the secretaries in the schools and Durden that it takes all of us, it takes a village to keep track of all of our kids, because we have multiple off-site buildings as well. And it just takes all of us getting everything in order and ready to go. I know that my mornings tend to be put out the fires. What has developed overnight, what's right on the forefront, put fires out and then be able to move forward. So I want to go over the different data collections that we deal with at the high school and somewhat in the district. But obviously, first of all, we have NWEA MAP, and that's our universal screener right now at the high school for 9 through 12 in math and reading. We will be switching this next year to FastBridge, and it will assume the responsibility of being the universal screener. But what we needed with FastBridge is the capability to be able to progress monitor our tiers 2 and 3 that's coming with the dyslexia initiative that's coming on this next year. We also have where the state has picked up paying for many of the ACT suite tests. We have pre-ACT, which is given to grade 9. We have the ACT, which is given to grade 11, Work Keys, grade 11. We have KITE interims that are available to the math and reading teachers. And then we have all of the different assessments that are part of the KITE suite, which, we have grade 10 math and reading, science at 11th grade. Social studies has been on a little bit of a break, but it's due to come back in full swing next year. We have the dynamic learning maps, which we call DLM, which that's an assessment for the lowest of our low students. And then we have the KELCA. And it's interesting, I was listening to some notes today from the KSDE meeting that took place on Friday, and they're actually wanting to add a couple other assessments at the high school level, but we'll see how that goes as time proves. So anyway, how do we use the data at the high school? Well, I've always distributed the class data results to the teachers once we've completed testing. We always look at the student data for growth. We use the data for instructional placement in many of our courses, math and reading. We use the data to provide levels and the data for individual student plans that are the IEPs. The student individual plans that we have, our ELL plans and 504 plans. So we use that data to make sure that kids are placed where they need to be, showing growth, etc. Then what's going to be the biggest change at the high school is the dyslexia or struggling reader initiative. And it's going to require universal screening. Then we're going to have to take that data and analyze that and make sure that we're putting the kids into the appropriate tier for support. That's going to require much more time than we've ever had at the high school. It's going to cause us where we have to progress monitor, so we're going to have to test the tiers 2 and 3 a little bit more often. And we're going to have to be more fluid with our grouping. Usually, and that's difficult to do at the high school because it's a domino effect with every shift in a schedule, it affects something else down the line, and it makes different difficulties sometimes, but we try to do that very carefully. So those are some of the things that we use our data for. Now, I just wanted to give the historical timeline of the instructional coach support curriculum development timeline, because it hasn't always been what I would have preferred it to be. But I am excited to hear that we're going to possibly have some good things coming for next year, which that will be a welcome opportunity to have a little bit more consistent time. But as a teacher, and we had late start Thursdays, and that was a rotation every other week. By the time I became an instructional coach, that had already gone away. And so we shifted to using Viking time at the end of the day. And it was on a rotation basis, department meetings versus grade level. And I will tell you, at the end of the day, everybody kind of knows the answer to that. It never works very well. It put a 5 to 6 weeks rotation when I could see the core groups minus your pep rallies, your teachers gone and do sports, et cetera, et cetera. So it proved to not be very effective of being able to meet with teachers on a consistent basis, being able to develop a plan that could be taken place and monitored in the classroom. So, and of course, we couldn't always depend on professional development either because it wasn't always given to classroom time, working with teams. So I'm excited to see that maybe we're going to have some little light at the end of the tunnel on that. So for next year. Okay, what I wanted to share with you is just some MAP student growth summary. I noticed what Erin said, pre-COVID. I'm not even going to say post-COVID because I don't think we're quite there yet. I don't know if we'll ever be there yet. But it's the most recent data we have, which is our fall and winter MAP data. And it was grouped into elementary, middle school, and high school. And what I'd like to do for you, some people are data people, some people are not. But I'd like the format for the 3 different levels is the same format. And what I'd like to do is just go by each column and somewhat just highlight and make sure that you understand what we're talking about. So if we look at this first column here, it is the number of valid tests for both terms. In other words, I had 70 students. They both had a test. That's not how many students we tested altogether, but we had to keep it where we had a comparison. So this is the group, we had the numbers that had a test for both of the terms, okay? If we look at the next column, the winter student mean RIT, that is the district's mean or average. Then we go over to the next one, is the grade level norm. That's what it is at nationwide norm for that grade level because it's the prior year. Then we look at the percentile. Now this column right here is a little hard to understand because you're kind of comparing 2 different data points. But if you think from a percentile scale where you have the first percentile all the way up to the 99th percentile, we fell in to a certain percentage. In other words, I could say it, let me get my little piece of paper here to say it. The grade level mean for our students compared to the national grade level mean determines our percentile. And the percentile reflects how many kids were at or above the 50th percentile, which is grade level, okay? And that duplicates all the way over. In other words, it's another year that's compared. And then we go over to the 2 last columns, which probably everybody's eyes went to that because that's somewhat a summary of where we are at. So in the elementary grades, overall, we saw growth. And I will just, in the defense of the elementaries, there's a lot of growth that is expected at the elementary level compared to the high school level. That's just the nature of the game. Kids are learning to read and growth is expected. The lower levels, if we look over here, some of our losses, that percentage of students that we lost that had equal or exceeded the grade level norm. The summer slump. Our summer slump was how many months long this year? It was very, very long. So we could, obviously see that our kids need to be in school. I had a lady at church say, thank God we live in Kansas, our kids are in school compared to what some other states are. And I agree, our kids need to be in school. So you can see, we all had growth. We all had some losses with exception. And, as always, there's always going to be a few exceptions. And we can see those with the green meaning growth and the yellow meaning loss. One thing that, and I'm not for sure that the elementary teachers mentioned this, but I'm just going to throw it in there. Our CDC guidelines of social distancing and wearing masks, that is totally contrary to how kids learn. We had no other choice. But that's not how our little people learn. They need group interaction. They need to be able to, huddle in groups. And so I think overall that reflects some of the losses that we had. Are there any questions with this one? Okay. All right, middle school, same thing. We look over here, straight across the board, all grades, there was growth. And you can see the losses are less because the need for growth is less as we go up. Questions, middle school? Okay. Then we have high school, once again, okay? Well, guess what? We had something that didn't follow the norm there. Grade 11, we took a 0.3 of a point loss. Let me explain that. At the 11th grade level, we had 10 students that did not take classes at the high school. They were already at SEC college algebra. If we would have had their numbers in there, that would have not been a negative. So, and that only took place in math because they were included in honors English at grade 11. So you didn't see that. So that's what I account for that loss there. Once again, we had a couple grades that didn't show overall loss like in the other levels, but those are the things that happened. The 9th grade class, it was strong all the way across the board. I also had this was student growth summary for MAP, and MAP also produced a recovery and goal setting data file, and the data is similar. The 9th grade showed up as that class that's anomaly that this just didn't affect them. They were a strong class and be able to rise above all of the little issues that we had with just COVID-19. Any questions with this? Okay, that concludes all that I have to say, and I appreciate, and I will tell you this, we're getting ready to finish up state assessments. We'll be beginning to do our map for the spring. If you'd like to see some data once we get that concluded, because I think the natural question that you have is, okay, now that we're back in school and we've been going, what is it going to look better? And my hope and my belief is that yes, it will. So, all right? Okay.
Thank you for sending that out early to us by email.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. And I guess that's it. Somebody will come click it off.
And they will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, instructional coaches. We will move on to item 7.0, report of the superintendent of schools.
Okay, so there's a few things on my report and update for today. The first, we'll start with the COVID-19 update. As of today, there were 3 students in quarantine and 1 active staff member. 0 active students that have active COVID. So the Pfizer vaccine is available for students ages 16 and up tomorrow afternoon. That is being given by CHC, Community Health Centers of Southeast Kansas. And so that will be the first dose. The second dose would be available May the 11th. So there were consent forms that were available in the offices and online. If at home you're watching and think, oh, well, I didn't get the call or the message, you want for your child to participate, they can turn in those consent forms until mid-morning tomorrow
Have we
morning.
had many sign up, Lori?
We have. At the end of the day, I think there were 20, I want to say, somewhere between 20 and 30 that had turned in consent forms, and there were about another dozen that had taken those out. So we do have a number of students that are already 18, and so they've already been vaccinated because they chose to do that because of where they work or other kinds of things, but that is available for them to have. So moving on to ESSER 2, okay, so I put this in the view, the amounts have increased a little based on the year's data, and so we're looking at that. The applications have started. Now, the process has changed a little. So now what they're asking you to do is you fill out the application and you send it to KSDE, and there's a group that screens it there. And then if it goes through the screening, it goes to the task force. And that was that list of superintendents and other school district folks across the state and people employed by KSDE. The task force reviews it, and then it goes before the State Board of Education for approval. So they have, I think last week on Thursday, there were about a dozen applications that had been received. However, they had been focusing on the EANS, which that is the money that's available for private schools. So they were getting through all of that before they moved on. So everything's based on reimbursable expenses. It has to be all pre-approved before we can pull down that money. It's those 15 categories, okay? So our application is going to include things like our summer school expenses, interventionists, professional development. I mean, the number one need is needs to be student focused and student driven. So, and there may be some other possible facility things. So the ESSER 1 money is all expended and all of that reporting is done and complete. So that's something we could mark off the list. So April the 26th, which is Monday coming up, that's one of the days we added for professional development. And so we are going to spend that time in the morning. We're going to visit as a group, and then teachers are going to have the opportunity to do some independent professional development. They'll be given a menu of things, and they'll get to select, okay, this is something I'm interested in, I want to learn about, I want to know about. And then that afternoon, they're going to have time to work in their grade level teams, collaborate, start to plan transitions for next year as they're moving forward, okay? So also April the 26th, that's the day the roof bids are due. So as part of our facilities, the roof bids for the high school auto tech print shop are due that day, so we will be opening those, we'll have bid opening that afternoon at 4:05. And then there'll be a special board meeting that evening to approve the bid. Let's see, a couple other things that I didn't get put on my report. Prom is May the 1st, at the park. We'll have something about that. Graduation, May the 22nd, which is Saturday. We're going to graduate on a Saturday at 2:30 at Marvel Park. And this will be great because then we won't have to worry about the number of people that come. If you have, however many in your family, they'll all be able to come. We ask the people wear masks and socially distance. May the 28th is the last day for our students pre-K 11. And then we have Memorial Day. And then our last teacher day is June the 1st. Now, something else that's happening June the 1st is by noon that day, that's the deadline to file to be on the Board of Education, to run for one of those spots. We will have 3 spots open on our board, and that'll start in January of 2022 is when they would start. But in order to be on the ballot, the deadline is June the 1st at noon that day, so. Okay. Let's see, does anybody have any questions for me at all?
All right, regarding ESSER money, do you know how much money that will involve yet or not?
ESSER 2, over 2 million, 2.1.
So let me see if I understand. So some of that money can be used, it's my understanding from other school boards, that money can be used to hire classroom teachers, counselors, social
Absolutely.
workers.
Yes, it can be. It's one
Okay.
of those 15 things that can be.
The only drawback is in 2 or 3 years, that money is gone and schools may not have the money to continue those positions.
That is possible. There is ESSER 3 money that is coming, so that'll be additional money. And so this money we have until 2024, is it 2024? 2023.
And
In
on
which
top
to
of that, we
expend.
don't know what the state budget is going to be in another year or two. So we may have some negotiating issues.
When does this money have to be spent by, this
This
S2?
ESSER 2 money, I want to say right off September 2023? I think it is September of 2020, but it could be 20 of 24, because now ESSER 3 money is coming out, and that'll be out this summer, and that'll bump it another 2 or 3 years.
23, 24.
Is that what I put on there?
I thought they gave 3 years.
Yeah, it ends.
Yeah.
So when's our final day to get everything in? I mean,
That's it, there is no deadline,
There is no deadline.
because what they're saying is this, you write your plan, and it has to go through all those steps to be approved.
And we may have another plan, another 6 months.
Right, and
Okay.
so what I'm looking at is this summer and next school year, I want to write a plan for a year and get that approved. And then, okay, we may have to tweak it, and if it has to be tweaked, that's fine. But I think it makes more sense to do it a year at a time.
Right.
Because, trying to plan 3 years down the road for how you're going to spend money.
Yeah.
I think we would.
Save for the rainy day.
I think it would require a lot more tweaks. And the thing is, when the time is up, what we've not spent, we don't get to keep.
It's use it or lose it.
It is use it or lose it. That is the way it is. And based on the data and student need, we have a lot of ways that we can use that, and our students will benefit from that in the coming years. I feel comfortable with that, so.
Anything else on that agenda item? Okay, moving on to 8.0, report on the April Tri-County Board meeting. Mr. Castle.
3 major things that we took care of this month was that we approved the KASB contracts for the legal services and the KASB membership, which I think it's on our agenda for tonight. We approved contracts with Greenbush for their specialized learning services and student enrichment services for about $12,000. And we approved the calendar for the TEC, that's the Learning Center in Independence for the next school year. That was the big things.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to reports by principals, item 9.0. I don't know how many are here.
I'm not sure how many are here or anything. Can I give us just a quick little update? Rob
Mr.
can
Barkus?
start.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Swanson is at a baseball game, so he asked me to make sure that you got your Summer Academy packet he sent.
And that was in the View last Friday, and that it was included in the View. And it's all the summer activities that they're going to offer at the high school in addition to the academic.
Yeah, he was really excited, and I was really excited the teacher response we got for workshops. Even though that they're not doing it for free, it's still refreshing to see that teachers still want to be around kids in the summer when they're supposed to be their off time or their downtime. We still had a lot of teachers sign up for the summer workshops, which I thought was encouraging after so this past year has been rough on everybody. So I thought it was refreshing to see the number of teachers that still want to be involved when there's a break in the school year.
Just for the general public, why don't you just read the title? There's only 7 of them, but they're awfully good in my opinion.
Yeah, we have the classes for credit right now are summer weights, creative writing, and then they have the workshops, yoga, barbecue basics, aviation, a bookworm club, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, going back a little old school there. Then to the future with coding camp, real world concert experience, and recycled book art journaling. And that's just as of now. I'm assuming there'll be more workshops as, word gets out sometimes. When you see other people do it, you want to do it too. So hopefully that'll grow. As far as athletics are going, they're going full bore right now. We have baseball and golf are on the road today. Supposed to have track tomorrow. I doubt that happens, but it might. The problem with the weather now, we've lost 2 games of baseball and 2 games of softball is the end of year's coming, and we're just running out of days to reschedule stuff. If we lose it now, it's just hard to find a date where 2 schools would have an open date to go. So, and then Lori still some other things I were going to talk about with the graduation and prom, but that's okay. You guys know, you've heard it twice now. So it's been a trying year, but still exciting. I mean, sports are still exciting when you go. Activities are still exciting. Exciting things still going on.
On the graduation, are the students going to be on the field?
Yes, sir. And there'll be a stage there.
On the field?
On the field.
Good, okay.
Yes.
I think what you guys are doing for graduation and prom is exemplary in regard to keeping all the students and parents and relatives safe. I see some things on Facebook from some other places where it looks like COVID's over, but it's not.
No.
So I really appreciate the hard work that you guys, and the students' cooperation.
Yeah, that's been the key, is the students have been bought in all year.
They're incredible.
We've been masked and probably one of the strictest schools around. When we go on the road, it's amazing to see the stuff that other schools aren't doing, that our kids just do, and that we're not fighting them about it, they've just done it. So that's been good to see.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the middle school here.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So first I want to talk about state testing. So we have completed our reading and math portions of our state testing, and this week science will be testing for 8th grade. We're still in the process of working on some of our makeups, and we did have some remote students that opted out, roughly half. We have about 21 students that are currently enrolled as remote students and 10 opted out. At this point in the year, we're really planning on kind of winding things down. We've been working on transitions for the 8th graders that are going to 9th grade. Tony Martinez has been to our building twice, one to go through the course catalog, and then one day she actually came and enrolled students in classes. And we are looking at doing ambassadors for the elementary students that are coming in. So we're having teachers select about 10 to 15 of our best 7th graders that'll be 8th graders next year. And they're gonna go over to Mr. Freeze's building and eat lunch with those students, show a video, talk to them a little bit about what it's like to be a middle school student. And then they're actually gonna come and eat lunch with us and do a picnic out on the field on May the 20th. We are planning 8th grade promotion. So we're gonna do Action 8 this year. We've gotten approval to use the rec center, Forest Park, and the swimming pool. So it'll be a day of fun activities for them. We're gonna cook out for them at Forest Park. And then that evening, they will have their promotion. And the date of that is May the 27th. We've also been planning field day for our 6th and 7th graders so that they can have something fun to do to wrap up their school year. May 28th is a shortened day, so we just plan on having groups of students out on the activity field to do different things like 50-yard dash, 3-legged race, potato sacks, those sorts of things. So it's gonna be fun coming up here at the end. Just a report on activities. TSA recently qualified for nationals. And so this is a program that supports our CTE pathways here at the high school. And it's a great way to expose our students to more technical careers. And so we'd really like to be able to expand that programming at the middle school. Track is continuing to develop. Last week, the girls team finished 3rd place and the boys 2nd place in Iola. Tonight, they're in Chanute, and we have a home meet next Wednesday. So that's why Mr. Gordon isn't here. He's being a track coach tonight. Golf has 2 athletes that have medaled twice apiece, Kyle and Kylie Haberger, and we are hosting our golf tournament next week, Tuesday at the Katy. And the boys tennis team has been very strong as well, and they will be playing in Winfield on Friday.
Any questions?
How many did you say opted out of the state assessment?
10 students.
10.
And when did you say middle school graduate? Where is it gonna be?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to be at the middle school in the auditorium. So we're limiting it to 2 guests per family. We're also going to live stream it. So that way we can make sure everybody's socially distanced and those family members that are not able to attend in person still have an opportunity to participate in that event.
When you talked about need for additional staff, are there other pathways, as you were talking, that we could possibly have for additional classes to explore, exploratory classes?
I think that at this point that it's a issue of staffing because we split Trevor Meserel between here and the high school. And so there would be opportunities if we had additional staffing to create more STEAM programs within our middle school.
Now, his classroom is empty in the afternoon, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, elementary.
All right, so at Lincoln, we have our preschool kindergarten preview that's coming up tomorrow, and it's from 4:30 to 6:30. And we have some staff that's gonna come in and give some guided tours. So if you're a preschool parent next year, you can walk through the preschool rooms, or if you're a kindergarten parent coming up next year, you can walk through the kindergarten rooms. We're gonna have books for them to take home, and we'll have the enrollment papers for preschool and daycare and everything there. So come out if you're interested in coming and seeing the fabulous things that we do at Lincoln. The reading club that's going on, that after-school program, we have 2 teachers that's been meeting with 9 students to increase their reading skills. And 2 of those 9 kids have already made it out of that after-school program. So they're bringing 2 more in. So it's going to be kind of like a fluid program. So, if you don't need it anymore, then you get to move on out and we'll bring some other kids in. And it's going to continue for 3 more weeks. Also, we have trash bag fundraisers, and it's going to be picked up at Guthridge on April 28th from 5 to 7 for all the schools. So if you would like to volunteer, please call one of the school offices, and they're going to get you in touch with Marley, who is collaborating all this stuff. And also, our site council for Lincoln is going to be April 29th at 10 o'clock. Call the Lincoln office and leave an email address, and we'll get you a Zoom link so you can join us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
On Monday of this week, our third graders were treated to a special Breakfast of Champions. And this is to recognize the start of their very first state assessment. The second graders decorated placemats and made posters for them. And on each day of the test, the third graders receive a handwritten encouraging note from a staff member in the building and something from a second grade class. Our English language arts state assessments are complete. And this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, the third graders will do their math state assessments. And as you saw from the data, I believe that Jane Good showed, our third grade students, their data has taken a hit. Those students that were second graders last year and are now third graders, as we know, they missed the whole last 9 weeks of school. And so this year's third grade teachers had to teach them new content at the same time going backwards and teaching them what they missed last year too. All the while juggling sometimes half the class at home and half the class in the room, or 3/4 of the class at home and maybe 2 in the classroom. And that changed, as the months went on. So there was so much to juggle. And so we are a bit anxious to see what our state assessment data is going to look like, because that lowest grade took the biggest hit. Today we finished our Pennies for Patients fundraiser, and I'd like to give a special thank you to Debbie Hannigan, who's the organizer of it. She comes in every day and counts every penny. I've asked her, why don't you take it to the bank and pour it in the little machine? And she said, but I want to separate it by class, and they probably won't want to do that. But thanks also to the students and the families that gave to this. Pennies for Patients funds support leukemia and lymphoma research. The top class wins a Domino's pizza party, and tomorrow we'll find out who the top class is. We also just finished our trash bag fundraiser, and like Shelley said, we're looking for volunteers to help with that. And then lastly, after almost 12 weeks, this will be the last week for Garfield's after-school program. We started February 1st and will end this Thursday. I'm very grateful for the extra time after school that 13 certified teachers and 5 classroom aides gave to helping 65 to 70 students, helping giving them extra academic push that they needed. Thank you to Rick for arranging transportation, and most of all, thank you to Robin Jarrett for the many hours poring over data and overseeing this program. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to kind of pick up where Misty left off first. We need to talk about that after-school program. We copied off them. Michelle put that together, and we're going to try to go, we think, to the end of April and then reevaluate, but the attendance has been over 90%. And we're hoping those 25 kids that almost every parent want to be part of, maybe we'll nudge them up a little bit, because as she said, they missed 9 weeks of instruction last year as third graders and fourth graders. And then if you've known a child or two to be quarantined, my son is a freshman. I think he's quarantined 5 or 6 different times. We've got one student in our building who's missed 52 days because of quarantine. So there is going to be nationwide, but it really hits hard here, how hard it's been with the Misty said the struggles of 18 kids today and maybe 12 tomorrow, and we have not had the stability, not had the routine. So we're excited. Our assessment started last week for our 5th grade. They worked science today. We started our English language arts next, and we'll finish math this week. And of course, there'll be a lot of makeups. Next week, we're going to hit the 4th grade, which will be the first time they've done it because they didn't get to do it as third graders. So we're trying our best to, every day talk about do your best, but don't put extra pressure on yourself. You know, relax, be comfortable. Our teachers, we wrote encourager notes. We went to Sam's Club and bought them a bunch of snacks so we can just make them as comfortable as possible. It's going to be challenging, but we'll do our best. As she said, PTO's coming on. Miss Wyland's organizing all that. Not having people in your building's hard for PTO, so she's taking it all on herself. We will distribute from our building. We'll ask parents, just kind of like we did last year with our COVID. We'll go heading north right in front of on 31st Street, so turn and we'll have all our stuff in our safe room. Hopefully we'll have some volunteers and then just pull up on that side of the road. We'll get you your materials and hand them off. Also, Pennies for Patients, Debbie Hannigan. If you don't know Debbie, she did that for us before spring break. We raised a little over $1,000. She counted every penny. I mean, she's there. Our kids try to help her carry the pennies, and she won't accept very much help. So she's a jewel. A lot of transition activities coming up in May. The middle school's been working with us, and we've been working with Misty, and I know Misty's been working with Lincoln. Rick's done a good job. I think on the 13th, 7th graders from the middle school come visit our 5th graders. They've got, I forget the term he used, 7th grade, I better see, I wrote it down. Didn't bring my glasses in here. Some of his best 7th graders are going to come meet our 5th graders. So when they go over there, they will have a friendly face, because that's a big building for 6th graders. And then on the 20th, we'll just do a big loop, and we'll take our 5th graders to the middle school, or the Lincoln will go to Garfield, and Garfield will come to us, and we'll spend a little time, and they'll ask us questions, and the questions will always be, do you know my brother, or do you know my sister? But it's fun time for kids to see our buildings and see what's going on. So very busy. I also want to thank all the community businesses. We had an Easter egg hunt that Christy Armstrong and our leadership team put together. We wanted to be outside. It was really a hit. Over 17 businesses donated things like a free pizza or gift certificates to Jock's Niche, and I don't want to read them all off, but a lot of our businesses did things to help our students and our teachers because it's been a really challenging year. Lastly, instructional coaches. Michelle I'm not in the other buildings, and I've been at the middle school and seen Susan. Invaluable is not even strong enough word. I mean, I've been an assistant principal, and I always kind of thought I was a good little right-hand man doing what I was supposed to do, but she is a pro. These are our best teachers, so the things they do in our classrooms that aren't administrative. So for young teachers or veteran teachers, Susan mentioned teacher efficacy, and that was the second in-service we had last year. Michelle led an in-service on that, and that's just the belief as a teacher you can have a positive impact, and that's been the drive. So if you're a first-year teacher, the principal may be intimidating, or I don't have the credibility that Michelle has, and she's modeled some management issues. She's modeled how to, for our younger teachers, she's just been, I'm sure, comforting and helpful. And for veterans, they know this, she's been there and done that. So those are all my notes. I kind of read through it pretty quick. Any questions about Guthridge?
No, I just want to make a comment. I got an article from Shawnee Mission School District, and you're right. All schools are struggling. The disturbing news from Shawnee Mission was, from their administration, it may take years to get some of these kids caught up. So if we think we're going to do a magic bullet in the summertime, we're kidding ourselves. So we need staff to do that, period.
Yeah.
So part of that COVID money was up for discussion.
And our instructional coaches are the driving force, I think, behind our summer plan, which will be more about trying to, instead of a longer day that maybe attacks some of the social emotional needs and things, we've got to really inject direct instruction in small groups and try to best. So we're going to try to hit 60 kids at Guthridge. I think 60 is the plan in every building, and that's just another thing where we've grouped them. We haven't sent the letter yet. I think it's coming out the 27th, but we'll use our map data to try to group them, and we'll invite parents. And I'm almost, based on the way we had the positive feedback of our after school, I'm sure a lot of our parents are going to appreciate the fact that we're going to spend June trying to, it's like an assembly line. If you take off, you don't go to work one day, you fall further than a day behind. So our kids are behind, and
I just want to say, Kurt, that we know how hard our teachers have worked, and I think we all really understand, even though I said, I'm going to speak for myself here, we understand that the scores are going to dip, and they've worked and taught as hard as they can, and it was the situation, and
Thank you.
we'll go forward.
Every day, because I got an email from another principal in an area about an opening that they'd seen in our district, and they said the same thing. Teachers everywhere are just, this is the stress time of year. And then so I just keep, I'm not saying don't do your best, don't sweat, but grace was the word Miss Ray had us using. It's a good year for our kids and our parents and our staff. We're doing the best we can, and just let the results show us where we need to be next year. All right? Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to old business, item 10.0, action on the purchase of a school bus.
All right, so this item was on the agenda in November, and then it was tabled to December and then put back on the agenda for April. So it was included in your view, and as well as in the packet, different transportation items and thoughts in regard to the need for the bus. A couple years ago, when we went to buying our own buses, instead of using a company to do that, we went with 8 buses. And what we have found is that if with only 8 buses, we're not able to take middle school or high school kids, very, very seldom, if at all, on regular routes. And what we have found is that the number of activities that our students participate in order to run the routes so that all the elementary kids can get home after school and get back and forth, we're having to take our athletics and our activities, and they're having to miss instruction time, leave early, go and wait, so that the bus can then come back to run the route. So we had planned every other year to purchase a bus, that one year our bus would drop off of the rotation and we would add a bus. So we have saved for a bus, and there is money in capital outlay specifically for a bus. What this proposal is that instead of dropping one off of the fleet, that we use the money that's been saved for the bus to purchase a bus so that we would have 9 in the fleet. So then we would have the opportunity to transport more middle school, high school kids that needed a ride. Our kids wouldn't be missing instructional time to leave early for activities so that regular routes could be driven. So these quotes, there's warranty information in here and quotes and all of that. The quotes are good until the end of April, and then the cost of those buses will go up. So.
There's the last page is what Mr. Giefer's recommendation was at that point in time.
So we're essentially adding a new bus to the rotation and keeping an old bus for an additional year. And essentially, we're just adding to our fleet. Overall inventory or a fleet of buses.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so the recommendation was that we purchased the Bluebird bus from Kansas Truck and Equipment, and there was their bid.
But that's not the cheapest bid.
It is not the cheapest bid. I will tell you, with the Thomas buses that we've had very poor customer service and follow-up regarding them working with our mechanic as well as warranty work.
But if I remember correctly, the administration wanted the local person to do the warranty work.
And we still want the local person to do the warranty work. What happened was Midwest Bus did a great job of selling the buses and said they would work with our mechanic, and they have not done that as well as we would like for them to do. And we do feel like Bluebird, for Kansas Truck and Equipment, we feel like they will.
I'm not sure that's justification to not take the low bid, though. And another thing, he says dates, buses, all I see is September and October. There's nothing been updated as far as dates that there was extra, so nothing's been done since then.
We did not update any of this, but our kids for basketball went early to activities. Our kids for track are going early to activities. There's still middle school, high school kids that are walking to school, walking home from school.
But how come I see buses sitting out there in the morning that nobody's driving?
Well, and that depends on what time it is and what route. So 2 of those buses are special education buses, And so we receive a depreciation for those, for the amount of special ed miles that they drive, so we transport certain students on those 2 buses. Other buses, we have them to drive the routes in the morning. It's the activities in the afternoon, where they're going back and forth to
What do you mean
Independence.
special ed buses? What does that mean?
They're buses that.
Who owns them?
We own them. We own them. They're in our fleet. But what we use them.
So 607 Tri-County pays nothing?
No. We pay for our own buses, which is what we did with Durham before. We paid for that transportation. That was never a
So even
Tri-County.
special ed buses are paid by the school district?
Yes.
7 school districts in Tri-County?
Yes. However, they are reimbursed at a much greater rate. So we receive reimbursement from the state at a much greater rate, at 85%, compared to none,
So
or very,
one of
very
the
little.
issues at the when we tabled this was the facilities team said we had some roof issues, so I'm assuming those are being addressed, as well as that finishing room that Feenan had that
That's, Feenan's has been taken care of, but the high school is not.
the high school, yeah.
And that's the big expensive one. There's nothing, there's nothing.
So where are we
Really
on
been
that
done.
then?
Well, we do have, the roof, we're taking bids, and so those bids will be taken through April till next
Well,
Monday.
where are we on that finishing room?
Oh, the finishing room, that was moved from a short-term need to a longer-term need, right, Roger?
No. It's short-term because we're not in compliance. No, we've got to find a contractor to add on facility or whatever for this finish room to the block, the paint room. No, I don't think we didn't move that.
We
did
did,
No, I
did
think
we move
it's
it to the
fine.
next 2 to 3 years?
No,
One
I
to
think
two.
it's still just short, yeah, short to
So it's
medium.
1 to 2?
Yeah.
And I don't have
But
the-
one of the other main things was the middle school roof. It was a huge question mark, and they've essentially addressed that to where it's not as an immediate, something that we need to immediately address,
And
like we initially thought it was going to be. And you're right, we did table it because I know me personally, I really felt like we were going to have some huge expenditures, but, knowing where we are with the ESSER money and doing the various facilities where a lot of this money is going to go to, as well as where we are with our current capital outlay budget and funds, I would be comfortable with it.
Well, I think on the middle school roof, true, we said we could, although its life is,
It's got 3 to 5 years, I think.
well,
right?
here, yeah, at the most.
At the
But
most.
once it gets water underneath it, then you get a whole different deal. So I don't know, we thought that, we'd kind of talked that once we got this roof going, if the bids were good on that's coming up next week, and there was interest, we might go ahead and go for this fall on the middle school, because here's another thing, pricing. It's jumping pretty quick.
Okay, we got a school bus on the action item here, so let's
Mr.
get a
President?
motion. Yeah.
To move along with this, I would make a motion that we accept a bid from Kansas Truck Equipment for a Bluebird bus.
Okay, so there's been a motion to accept the 99-612 from Kansas Truck and Equipment for the Bluebird bus. Motion on the floor.
I just second it.
Okay, motion on the floor and seconded on the Bluebird bus. Any further discussion on that?
I don't think this is fair at all, that we're paying more for a bus than the lowest bid.
And and just so you're aware that we are able to choose someone other than the lowest bid in this situation.
I know.
Based on prior experience.
I know, but I don't believe, well, do what you want, but I'm not in favor of it at all.
Okay, any further discussion before we take a vote? Okay, been first and seconded, Kansas Truck and Equipment Bluebird bus, the amount stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, who voted no? Let's,
3 of us.
Three.
okay, Lou, Olivia, and Roger. Okay, motion carries 4-3. Moving on to 11.0, action to accept donations to schools.
That's on page 22 in your packet, so we're going down here. At Garfield Elementary, Margaret and Jerry Edison from Olathe made a donation of 151 books to the library, valued at $755. Lincoln Elementary received craft bags for students from the Parsons Public Library valued at $20. James Corbett donated $20 for Lego kits for a kindergarten class. Parsons PTO donated parent-teacher conference meals for staff valued at $175. And Adams Painting donated chips and salsa for teachers valued at $25 for a total of $240 of donations at Lincoln for the month of March. At Guthridge, PTO made a donation for those parent-teacher conference meals of $150. Middle school, there were no donations this month. At the high school, there was an anonymous donation for Honor Flight valued at $385. Chanute Christian Academy made a donation to the Honor Flight for $50. David and Aquila Winchell made a donation to Honor Flight valued at $100. The Booster Club donated $300 to the football program, and Scheibe Heat and Air donated $100 to the football program for a total of $935 at Parsons High School in the month of March. So district-wide, that added up to $2,080 of donations for the month of March. I would recommend that you approve those donations.
Okay, I need a motion.
Yeah, move to accept.
Moved and seconded to accept those donations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 11.1, action on membership in the CASB for 21-22 year. This is
All right,
something-
so
yeah.
this is, we are in pretty constant contact
Yeah.
with the Kansas Association of School Boards, and I would recommend that we do option 2, which includes the season pass, because that allows for board members to attend things at no cost, as well as administrators and teachers. So that is a total cost of $12,587.22 for the school year. So that would be my recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to extend our membership with CASB as stated. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 11.2, action on Kansas Association of School Boards Legal Assistance Fund.
So this is the legal assistance fund whenever we need to call an attorney or have an attorney present, or to look over things like our handbooks, those kinds of things, or letters. So the renewal cost for that is $2,300, so I would recommend that you approve that as well.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the legal assistant fund contract renewal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 11.3, action on resolution to appoint board district hearing panel.
Okay, so this resolution would appoint a 3-person hearing panel, which would include the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and a school board member as a district representative. And we would be the hearing panel over any hearing required by Senate Bill 40. I would recommend that you appoint.
So is this something new, or where's
Now,
this coming from?
This is COVID related.
Okay.
Will the board member, will it rotate through the board members?
My thought is, and this was my thought, and we can do it however you want. My thought was just so that we wouldn't have to be calling board members all the time, because we have a certain period of time we have to act on these, this very quickly.
72 hours.
We can either rotate it and call somebody new every time, or for consistency, if we want one person to do it and then have alternates, that's fine. I can do it, and then if I'm not available, then it goes to Lou. If he's not available, it goes to who's next, Mike. I mean, we can do it however you want. I just think we just need to get it in place.
Me too.
That sounds good to me, buddy.
Make a motion. There's a motion on the floor.
Okay, motion, there's a second? Okay, second to establish that board district hearing panel as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 11.4, discussion and action on short-term strategic plan goals for 21 through 23.
Okay, so last year prior to COVID, we met a number of times with different community groups, parents, staff, we came up with 5 different goal areas in which the group wanted to address. It was to be a 5-year plan, and here's where we're at. After COVID, a lot of things have changed, a number of things, and a number of things from the state as well. So they are in the process of redoing the way accreditation is going to happen in the state, and so we have 2 years until we're accredited, okay? Accreditation's a 5-year cycle. So they're in the process of changing that. So in 2 years after we're accredited, there will be a whole new accreditation cycle, as well as, when they mentioned the CAN Star, that they talked about earlier, that'll be a part of it, KISA, KSDE. So on your sheet, what I'm proposing is that we have a 2-year short-term plan from 21 until 23, and that we work on these 5 goal areas: the student supports, the communication, our community, our personnel, and our infrastructure and facilities, okay? And that's 5 big areas that all need some work, and one person isn't going to do everything on all 5 of those, in all 5 of those areas. However, under student supports, the things that we really need to do and get solid, get our feet under, get to moving our individual plans of study at the high school and middle school level, and also that multi-tiered systems of support they talked about with the dyslexic screener and all those interventions and tiers. Those are 2 things that are going to take time, resources, effort, and a lot of focus. And I think they're going to do great things for kids. And so that's where I would recommend that we go with those. For communication, we need to continue to communicate with our parents, our staff, our communities. We'll continue to do those surveys of all of those folks to check the climate, feedback, see how things are going. You'll notice a lot of this is color-coded. A lot of it's required by the state now. They're saying, oh, do this one as well, as, you know, and it goes directly with our accreditation. The next one is communities. We're going to continue to work on those partnerships with our businesses. And I think that can go directly with those individual plans of study as we're working there, and with our parents and with our families. So personnel, that's another one. You know, we need to have quality professional development, because as things are changing with the dyslexia screeners, the new textbooks that we're getting, as well as the social emotional things and how those are all directly related, we need, I think, to spend some time on that, as well as additional and new staff training. The infrastructure facilities, I feel like we've got a good start. We have a plan. We need to then add to that plan, put it in that book format with all of those bids or estimates, as well as technology. So we started the one-to-one initiative, but all we've really done is purchase the devices. So then in the next 2 years, we need to look at, the board voted to help him realign his department. So we need to look at that. We need to look at how we're going to integrate that with what we have. So
I would add one more thing. The instructional coaches brought this up, and I thought it was a great idea. They said they need to address the culture and climate of the buildings. And that needs, in my opinion, needs to be added to this.
Right.
You've got social and emotional learning, I get that, but culture and climate is something different, in my opinion.
I think, yeah, and I think that would definitely be a part of that communication where we're busy.
Well, I'd like to see that specifically
I can write that
stated.
down.
And I think also, when our new assistant superintendent comes, I think he will be able to really add some additional value to this process too.
I think so, too.
You know, I think his experience at where he comes from and what he adds to this process, I think next year we should be able to hopefully hit the ground running with some of these things and modify things as necessary, so.
Lori, when Jane Good was talking, she said universal screening for dyslexia. Does that mean high school?
It means everyone has to be screened.
K-12.
K-12. Now, if we can come up with rationale for the 12th graders not to be, we could turn that in, is what they told us the last time, but everyone has to be screened.
Are the assessments long? Have we seen it?
And so, well, that'll be part of what we're going to use FastBridge for. And so it won't be long, but it'll still be time consuming.
30 minutes at the high school and middle school.
At
30
least
minutes a student?
per student.
But it's a group test. The elementary will still use DIBELS, but they've
Okay.
always
Right.
used. But the middle school and high school, it'll be a 30-minute computer test.
That they'll have to take.
And you could take it all in one class, 20 or 30 of them could do it.
Well, however many are in the class, yeah, on the computers at the
Oh,
same time.
that's good.
Won't
I
be
was thinking
individual.
one-on-one.
You said
Yeah.
a computerized test?
So
Yes.
they're ready in the fall.
Okay.
Okay, so we need some action on these short-term strategic planning goals.
Because then the plan in 20, I wrote it down. So then in the spring of 2023, what we would do is we would again meet with our teachers, with our staff, with the board, with our community, and develop a plan that spring for then the next 5 years. And it would include our KISA goals, things we needed for KSDE, Kansas Star, so that all of this is working in unison together.
But does this need to be updated and evaluated in 6 months or a year, or?
So what we'll do next, once it's been approved, is that for each of these items, we'll develop an action plan, and we'll then determine, okay, who's responsible for this? What are the timelines for getting it done? What's it gonna look like when it's complete?
How are you gonna measure it?
And how, right, all of those things. Mhm. And so that'll be things that I can continue to provide to the board.
I move that we accept these strategic goal areas with action items with adding culture and climate to communication.
Just one clarification. Under communication, under Aptigee, can you clarify that? So,
Okay, so Aptigee is what we currently use.
for what?
That's where we have all of our social media, all of our
That's their
push-ups.
app?
That's the app. It's everything Parsons in your
So
pocket.
it's like what? What's it like?
It's-
Facebook?
It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's not
So it's a
Instagram.
social media, it's an in-district social media app? Is that what that is?
Well,
It's
it's an
public,
app.
too.
It's USD 503 Parsons Vikings app. Anybody can download the app. They can get our push-out notifications, whether it be for announcements for weather.
So
and
anyone can comment on there?
That depends
I mean,
on,
is it an open app?
is it an open?
Yeah,
no,
like Facebook.
No, no.
So that's what I'm trying to get at. It's a private in-district app.
Is it an informational app? Is that what
It's,
it is?
it's an informational app. So you can go on that app and look at any of our websites. And there is a component where you can click and send a message to someone. So someone can receive a message. It's called through Thrill Share. But anyone can download the app. They don't have to be a school person. If they just want to know what's happening in Parsons School, that little app, everything Parsons in your pocket, you can download it. You'll get the push notifications, then
All right, I don't know anything about it. Okay.
Yeah, this is what we, David and I and Olivia, were we all on this committee? But we looked at different apps that other districts had and came up with this one. Met
and
with Ben.
the board approved this last year, prior to COVID.
Well, I proved something that I don't understand.
Well, you need
It's
to
just
get
the
the,
Viking app.
you need to
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
app, Lou. You need to get the app, and then
I'll
you
stick
can
with
understand it by next
Yeah.
board meeting.
Yeah, I'll fix it.
We'll ask for a report from you on Aptigee.
No, not.
All right.
It shows some of the kids' work and.
Because the app is already in place.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor here to approve the short-term strategic planning goals with the modification on culture and climate. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the short-term strategic planning goals as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. 11.5, action on approval of a staff exit interview.
Okay, so this had come up a time or two, and the board had asked that we have an exit interview developed. And so on page 26 of your packet is a brief survey that staff will be given that are leaving. They'll be given the opportunity just to provide some input on their employment experience. And that information, I think, will be beneficial to the district and to the board moving forward. So it just tells them, the name, the position, the last day, why they were leaving, whether it be a resignation or retirement or something else. And then they, using the Likert scale, they determine, were you prepared for your job? Were you satisfied with the training? Satisfied with pay, benefits, incentives? How would you rate 503 as an employer? The communication in 503. And then we ask about COBRA insurance. They need follow-up information for insurance. And then we give them the opportunity for comments and suggestions.
Move to accept the staff exit interview.
Second.
Okay, we move the second to approve the staff exit interview as printed there. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. 11.6, action on high school and middle school math textbooks.
Okay, so Linda has all the information about right? I mean, it's all printed right here, but our textbooks are from 2014? For math.
The math, and the high school and the middle school met independently, but they both came up with the same reveal math. I missed, we had some issues with our bid, and that's why it's not in the packet. The bid for the high school is $38,911.63, and the middle school is $41,222.65. And there's a program that goes with the reveal called Alex, and it is a remedial program, which is what we're gonna have to have as we go along through with MTSS. And so, I was really excited when the high school and the middle school looked independently and selected the same series, because it'll be continuity then between them. So I'd recommend you accept that.
Use Alex at the higher education team. Alex is a McGraw-Hill product, so it's a good product, supplemental product.
It is also, it does not just low level, but it goes clear.
Yes, enrichment,
accelerated.
yes.
So it's general math, it's not trigonometry or algebra?
Well, it goes clear on up. Alex goes clear on up as it's accelerated. But the high school program has an algebra 2, and a geometry.
Okay.
That's as high as our classes go, because then LCC comes in and picks up the trig classes.
Move to approve the bids for math.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the high school and middle school math textbook recommendations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 11-7. Action on middle school social studies textbooks.
They selected a program earlier in the year, and they've been piloting it. The cost for it is $41,271.56. The only thing that we have lacking in the middle school and the high school, after we accept the social studies, is the language arts at the high school. And I think we picked the perfect time, because with all this dyslexia requirements, next year, there'll be some programs coming out that can help high school. And so that's the only one that's left of the 4 core. We've updated. We had science and social studies that was back in 2010. So this one, the middle school, is 2012. We got behind on our textbooks when money got tight, so I'd recommend you go ahead and accept the middle school social studies program.
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept those middle school social studies textbook recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And we'll have we'll have professional development already set up for next fall. We'll be able to get these books ordered without having them back ordered, so they'll have them when school starts. Or this spring is what we're hoping.
We do have item 11-7A on the addendum regarding the prom locations.
Okay, so prom, location B is where we're at now. Originally, we had talked about having it possibly downtown. Now, we're going to move prom to the park, and it'll be right there in that pavilion area at Forest Park. So they'll have the snow fencing, and it'll all be blocked off. We did purchase special event insurance through Wood Dula Harry at the request of the city, but Debbie Lamb from the city did request that the board approve this formally in a board meeting. So that's May the 1st. It'll start from 7 and go till 11, and we're gonna have the prom outside. We'd like to, right here. So I'd recommend you approve that one.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the prom location, the park as presented.
One final comment, I guess, if it's inclement weather,
If it's inclement weather, so I had talked to the junior class sponsors, and so what they'll do is they'll move back to the high school in the gymnasium. So it won't have all the decorations and things, but they'll be able to spread out in both of those gyms.
okay.
So
Further discussion?
we're hoping it doesn't snow that day.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. 11-8, executive session. Type of,
I'd say probably 30 minutes.
okay, she needs 30 minutes. Does anybody need any time here?
About 10.
Okay. Anybody
Probably
else?
get my
I need a
done.
restroom break.
I can probably get mine done at 20.
3:35 then, I guess. So we're gonna have a brief restroom break until 8:05, and then we'll enter executive session at 8:05 for 35 minutes. Let's go ahead and do that. So we need a motion in that regard.
So moved.
Okay, been moved and seconded to go into executive session, discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the non-elected personnel exception under COMA and the exception for employer-employee negotiations under COMA at 8:05 for 35 minutes, and we'll return back here at 8:40. So we will take a brief 5-minute recess before starting executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
sure 5, or do we need to do 10?
Do 10.
Okay, back in open session here, we do need to extend our executive session for 10 minutes, and so I'll entertain a motion to do that. Been moved and seconded to enter executive session to discuss personnel matters for non-elected personnel, confidential information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and employer report negotiations under COMA at 8:41 for 10 minutes. We'll return back here 8:51 in open session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. what we voted last.
Right, we are. So we have an interim person.
I can remove it, we vote on that, right?
Yeah, last.
Oh, let me get that.
And one of our action on personnel is the lady to run the show on that.
I saw this one person, but.
Yeah.
And she's gonna help us get the rest of it.
Okay. All right, we are back in open session here, and we are up to item 11.9, action to approve reemployment of licensed staff for 21-22 school year.
All right, those are all listed on page 30 through 32 of your packet, so I would recommend that you approve all of those licensed staff for reemployment next year.
I so moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve that list of reemployment for licensed staff for next year. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. 11.10, action to approve elementary music teacher position.
Okay, so there is funding available in the budget.
I make a motion.
Okay.
To go ahead with that.
All right. Moved and seconded to approve the new elementary music teacher position. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, 11.11, personnel, and then we do have the addendum personnel as well.
So we have recommendations for employment. Hannah Caswell is the high school, middle school band teacher, effective the 21-22 school year. Carrie Mathis, high school, middle school art teacher, effective the 21-22 school year. And Judy Neely, the child nutrition director interim, effective March the 16th, 2021. I recommend that you approve those for employment
You said March 16th.
this year, because she's going to start,
She's been there.
right, she's helping us get ready.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those recommendations for employment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, we've got resignations from employment. We have Jennifer Adams, Lincoln Billing Clerk, effective April the 12th. Dorothy Box, Bus Monitor, effective April the 5th. Eric Stark, High School, Middle School Band Teacher, effective the end of the 2021 school year. Tiana Wamsquam, 5th grade teacher, effective the end of the 2021 school year. And Tony Williams, Lincoln Preschool Aide, effective the end of the 2021 school year. I recommend that you approve those resignations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve those resignations. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, so we have termination from employment, Crystal Garcia, Bus Monitor, effective April the 19th, 2021, and Crystal Garcia, Garfield Sweeper, effective April the 19th, 2021. I recommend that you approve that termination.
So do.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the termination from employment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, we've got resignations for retirement. Mary Myers, High School Guidance Office Secretary and Registrar, effective June the 4th, 2021, and Terry Woodward, District Office Maintenance, effective June the 30th, 2021. I recommend that you approve those resignations for retirement.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to approve those resignations for retirement. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. No further business. We are adjourned this evening. Thank you for your